something straight. Bitch-Sensei said that if you mess up your L's and your R's, that she's going to punish you by French kissing you in public. Hello, Bitch-Sensei. This week's episode of Assassination Classroom was an excellent journey into the mind of Irina Yelovich, Bitch-Sensei, Big Bosoms McGee, whatever you want to call her. She's the star of this week's episode, and despite that, there's also a little bit of surprising elements at the very end where we apparently get to find out that Koro Sensei has a brother. Yeah, a little brother. I'm only saying little because it looks like this crazy little kid who has these creepy-ass looking Renegon eyes who looks completely insane. He's being sent by this weird-looking white ninja who has these creepy, weird pink eyes, which kind of remind me of Koro Sensei's, but we don't get a look at this guy either. And these guys just appear out of nowhere at the very end of this week's episode. But let's talk about the star of this week's episode, Bitch-Sensei Irina Yelovich. In the beginning of this week's episode, she gets a visit from her old trainer and sensei, Lovro. This guy is kind of an old badass. He's trained a lot of assassins, and he decides to go to the school and remove Irina and put in someone else because he feels that she is not up to the task of killing Koro Sensei. Koro Sensei disagrees and doesn't want her to leave because she's actually turning into a pretty good English teacher, so he proposes a competition between Lovro and Bitch Sensei. They have to kill Karasuma. This is funny, because Karasuma just gets dragged into it, and he seems to be okay with it. And this episode firmly establishes that Karasuma is one of the most badass assassins seen in the show, because not even this old grizzled assassin who's trained thousands of people can't even take him down. There's a scene where he tries to take him out with one of the rubber knives. It isn't gonna happen. It's all up to Bitch Sensei. This is basically her getting to show off why she's so competent at what she does. And there's a scene in this week's episode which is just mostly played for fan service, but I gotta admit, it was really creative and fun, because she decides to outright just walk right up to Karasuma when he is outside. She takes off her jacket and starts to show off a little bit, and she has this trick where she actually ties up his leg, runs around a tree, gets right on top of him, and gets ready to finish him off, but she simply can't do it. She doesn't have the strength. And then Karasuma just lets her do it. But the whole point of this was to show her determination and how far she would be willing to go in order to actually complete her task, and why she's so dedicated to now helping out the students of Class 3E. And it's just funny to see her waving around like a madman with a creepy smile on her face with a knife in her hand. That's just ridiculous. The last bit of the episode is kind of surprising because it's the end of a class day, all the students are going home, and Koro Sensei is getting ready to go to a movie premiere in Hawaii. They're actually following up on that whole Sonic Ninja thing they did from the last episode, and that's actually what he's going to go see. And both Karma and Nagisa happen to be really big fans of that franchise, so they beg Koro Sensei to go along, and oddly enough, he decides to bring them on this trip. My first thought when this scene happened was I thought this was going to be a perfect opportunity for them to try and assassinate Koro Sensei, but it was made very clear when they were finally flying in the air that that really just was not going to be possible, especially if they were moving at Mach 20, because even if they were to kill Koro Sensei in mid-air while moving that fast, if they were to just slam into the ocean just like that, their bodies would probably explode on impact. They would be dead instantly. The episode ends with Koro Sensei and his students watching this movie and completely just loving every minute of it. I love the fact that they do actually establish that since it's in Hawaii, it's going to be an American movie and there isn't going to be subtitles, so he decides to actually give him these weird earbuds that come from his tentacles, which happen to have his little face on them. It's real strange. He even brought blankets and stuff because the AC is always jacked on in Hawaii, apparently. The episode ends when they return back to the classroom and they all decide to go their separate ways, and that's where we see the introduction of Koro Sensei's brother. Is it really his brother? Could this be just some weird kid who's been hypnotized to kill Koro Sensei? I'm excited to see how this is going to go down. I especially loved the little joke where when they were watching the movie, the villain of the movie was revealed to be the brother of the main character, and they were all talking about how cliche that was, and Koro Sensei just loved the concept. He was crying all over it because he just loves those cheesy things. Apparently, that's another one of his weaknesses. And then at the very end, they reveal this weird villainous character who just claims to be Koro Sensei's brother. All I know is, I'm excited. If this is actually related to Koro Sensei, we are getting this much closer to learning a little bit more about his origins. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Assassination Classroom? Boobs. Lots of boobs. Boobs all over the place. Bitch Sensei This was a pretty good episode. She's a character that has really grown on me as the series has gone on. At first, she was just a pure fan service character. I thought she was going to be one note, one episode type of character. We'd never see her again. She's become one of the most enduring members of Class 3E, and is actually a pretty standout character for the series. But as much as the first half of the episode was about her, Karasuma completely stole the show with how incredibly badass he is, especially in the scene when he was attacked by her master. It firmly established how awesome he is, because when they first showed off that guy, they made it seem like it was the opposite, almost as if Karasuma was more intimidated by him. But oh no! He had all of these guys wrapped up around his little finger, and there was a lot of little funny scenes. Aside from all the fan service moments with Bitch-Sensei, which I could go on for days, there was this one little funny subplot where Karasuma was having another competition with Koro Sensei, where Koro Sensei was going to give him the opportunity to attack him for 1 whole second. And he was just going to stand there and take it. What he didn't mention is that he was going to have his own suit of medieval armor, which was made to fit his weird octopus body, which was made for a very nice one-note joke, which I thought was pretty damn clever. But the second half of the episode, that's when things get really surprising. One, again, it just shows that Koro Sensei will go above and beyond to help out his students, to hang out with them, to make their lives better, really in any way he can. I mean, even when he gets back from the movie, he leaves to go tutor another student. He's constantly on the job, and I was kind of hoping that we could see him in a more relaxed setting to maybe get another clue as to who he really is. But they at least give us another clue with the fact that this weird human character with freaky eyes is showing up, and it could very well be his brother. Is it? I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. I'm really interested. What I will say is this week's episode looked really nice. It had some great animation, it had some really good funny moments, and some badass action sequences. And of course, there was that scene at the end which was both heartwarming and eye-opening with that whole thing about Koro Sensei's brother. So I'm really excited for the rest of this one. This week's episode was really exciting, and you should definitely check it out if you are a fan of the Assassination Classroom manga series, or if you've been following the anime version. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 5 out of 5. I really liked it. It was one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. So check it out, guys. Really good episode. With boobs. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked this review, please give it a thumbs up and hit the like button. Please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Assassination Classroom. Tell me about your favorite scenes, maybe stuff you didn't care for, what you hope to see from the rest of the series, and is that really Koro Sensei's brother? Tell me your theories in the comments section below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow us on social media. Thank you guys again for watching, and stay dandy, baby.